Be sure to subscribe and like our channel.
Welcome to the Deeper Down 2 podcast or 2 video section. We're going to be doing some Fox magic with myself, and then Andrea will be on at 1 o'clock with What is Chaos Magic. So you'll have 2 shows today, peeps. So for people that don't know me, my name's Zachary. I'm a student of Andrea's. My family has done Daoist and Buddhist magic or just Chinese magic for centuries. This is kind of our shtick, especially with these guys. And I'm also a registered acupuncturist, master of medical qigong, and then Andrea and I both co-own our wellness center here, Wuji Xuan Life Wellness, and Queen Sia Cure Apothecary, where you name it, we can fix it or do something with it. So we offer various herbs, services, and we have lots of supplies. So that's a little introduction about myself. So today's topic is Chinese fox magic. And Chinese fox magic is an elusive topic. No one really talks about this community. It's either you're in or you're not. Because foxes are picky, right? And it's one of these distinctions I want to make first off. It's you don't pick these spirits. These ones particular pick you. And then they will usually stick with families on a generational level. So with my family, we've been working centuries with these particular, and there's a lot of questions people get with foxes in general. So I'll start off with a general overview, and then we'll get into more specifics, and then eventually we'll do an impromptu ritual if people are in. So with that, no, we actually did. But
you made it sound like, yeah, we're just do this on the fly.
We're just going to do this on the fly. It makes it fox-like, sly, right? So yes. So usually when we talk about fox magic, it is from northern China. I'll let the bell go first. With the herald. Herald's a little late, but so
Facebook does not allow us to be late, so you have to actually start
right on time or it kicks you off. Yeah. They penalize you hard on that. So they're from northern China, this tradition specifically. And this was, I would say, when you work with foxes, they are known in Chinese culture as the equalizer type spirits. They don't care if you're rich, they don't care if you're poor, but they do care if you're an outsider, because they will do this, what we would say, shape-shifting in between different social roles. And they'll do what they need to do to get the results they need. And this is where, there are certain traits with foxes that people would know in the West, such as intelligence, maybe cunning, maybe wittiness, right? Adaptability, things like this. And I think across generally all foxes, are going to have certain traits because they're foxes. We look at their behavior first. In Chinese notions, though, we do have a few more connotations, such as they are either brilliant yang or like lunar or solar forces, and they have lunar forces. So at least in Chinese culture, we have split the foxes between these two dualities. And depending on what you want with them, there's different types of foxes, right? And with them, their origin stories comes from this mythological book called the Shanghai Jing, which is the book of seas and mountains, or the classic of seas and mountains. And it's literally our mythical zoological textbook that we'll refer to. And they say, well, you want to find nine-tailed foxes, first you have to go to the one blazing sun valley. You're like, the hell's the sun valley? So this is actually connotating things such as a journey that the shaman has to go to the astral planes for, to say, hi, I'm here. And then they'll be like, why the hell are you here? How did you even get here? Good job. You made through all the monsters and you found the light. And then you need to have a stern conversation with them. This is why they choose you more so. And they'll actually put you through some tests, right? Even with me as Andrea's student, they put me through some tests. They're like, yeah, you're on the family line. That's nice, but can you prove your skills to us? So literally, they made me go through hell on some levels. And they're not nice about things, too. I remember a time when I had some deep emotional toxicity that I was just shoving down. And these two gave me a nip in Costco, and I bled out, like floor bleed out. And it was like just a paper cut. It ended up being like a cardboard cut. And I walked to, like, Costco has that ER piece where they go to the back room. No one was there. I was like, oh, this is how this is going to roll today. Right? So again, they are actually close as animal spirits. They are also primordial spirits in some ways. Like, they're not going to think like humans. A lot of people, when you see Japanese cultures, for example, with kitsune, they'll put more human adaptabilities to them. But really, when you're actually working with animals, you got to work with them as animals, right? So this is where there's this respect piece. So it's like, can you even touch your primordial aspects? Can you convince yourself of working with those atavistic pieces? So in the Sun Valley, from there are a few gods and goddesses. Obviously, this is astral plane. The foxes, depending on which ones you work with, will connect to the Queen Mother of the West. And Queen Mother of the West is a controversial figure in Chinese culture also, because she's the one that makes Daoist immortals. She gives you the feature of immortality, or she'll kill you. Take your pick, right? Or maybe you got to do a bit of both. You never know with her. So
she could kill you, and then you could resurrect as a Daoist immortal.
Right. And there's plenty of stories of that, right? But again, she's one of these spirits that is very much, I won't say a trickster spirit, but there is this awareness that you have to be in tune with yourself, because she is a judge also, are the foxes, because they'll put you through tests. So with the Queen Mother of West, that's what they'll say is she's the herald. These are the heralds of them. And that's what the foxes are generally known for. However, they are also heralds to other spirits. Why? They're foxes. They do whatever they want. So this is where we get this chicken and egg connotation of, well, are the foxes free to do what they want, or do they have to listen to gods and goddesses? I would say they're independent forces. And it's a working relationship between the spirits, between, I guess you'd say, humanity, and what the foxes can bring. So they will flip a coin on what you are good with. They can either be positive forces of nature or negative forces of nature, and it just depends on who you're working with. And it's very much like a personality type. All right. If you have a really nice person, are you going to tell them to go beat up somebody? Probably not. So even with these foxes here, these are more celestial based foxes, right? Compared to the more, I would say, heavier foxes that work on the yin spectrum, right? And even with those yin foxes, it's funny because it's like, I've worked with these pretty consistently. However, I'll go over to the river, and then those foxes will be like, those darker foxes will be like, oh, you are so cute. Don't even think about this, right? And Dre will go over and they'll be like, hey, buddy, how you doing? But that shows our personalities where what I can deal with, where Andrea can work on both sides more, right? And this is very much, again, it's you see your personality expansions, I guess you would say. So with that, I'll continue. But is there any questions so far on anything? I know you got one, Jeffrey. So it is in the literature that there are different correspondences to foxes in terms of the elements. I would say these are based on Chinese culture's system of elements, such as wood, metal, fire, earth, water. And if you look at more ceremonial Taoist work, they will say, oh, call the fox of fire, call the fox of wood, call the fox of metal, and they have different traits. In my experience, you can go down that ceremonial way, but from a folk standard, you don't. You just say, yo, fox, what can you do? Right? It's very practical. And they'll tell you, be like, maybe they'll talk in riddles to you. I find that they'll do that sometimes too. Sometimes they're very straight with you on the conversation. And they'll be like, dude, stop being a dick. It's that narrow-minded sometimes. So this is where we can, I know a lot of people from Taoist perspectives are going to be like, dude, you can't say you can't, there's many different foxes, but they are shapeshifters. They can shift into any single piece of the elements, right? So this is where these foxes as a whole, very much like, how do I describe? They are the spirits that are near to you, but they are far. Because you can make requests for more spiritual evolution. You can make it for more practical pieces. This is why, from a classism standard, from a folk standard, it doesn't matter where you go with them. And they'll grant it. But you have to be specific sometimes too, because I've asked some questions to them before. They're like, "We got you your result." I'm like, "Shit, I wasn't specific enough," and they'll give me exactly what I didn't need some way. So you got to be particular with the wording sometimes. But again, it's lessons. So this is where there are different types of foxes in terms of spiritual maturity also. So as you can see, we have statues here, one tail. Some of you may have heard of nine-tail foxes. Nine-tail foxes are I don't want to say the grand poobah foxes, but they have gone through at least the Chinese mythos of it takes 50 years to get a tail, and you have to earn a tail. So if you can get 9 tails, you've been around the block and then some. And then because of that, this is where, the more tails you have, it is closer to a ranking of how far you have grown as a spirit or an idea. So even working with the foxes, you will get ranked tails with them. And each tail will have a different ability based on your personality aspect, right? And that's nothing that's really talked about, I found, in the public literature. But each piece of the tails, and you'll see this when we do the ritual. Andrea will be setting up the ritual, and I'll be being a medium because I'll be invoking one of these two, if not both of them. We'll see who wants to come in today. And it will go through a tail evolution spectrum, right? And then once all 9 tails, it becomes like you have the spectrum of life open to you, at least on that sphere. So if it's more of a darker fox, we'll say, that goes into connotations of death much more. If it is more life foxes, all of life spectrum is open to you. Because 9 is the highest number in Chinese culture. It's the most yang number. So this is where, if people want, when we go into the ritual, you can get yourself, I'm going to call them pups, because they are literally going to be like, yo, puppy fox, come on in. And then people can purchase those, and that's an open door invitation to the fox tradition, where if you're interested, you can always learn more at our studio. But that gives you the gate to at least start working with them, because remember, they choose you. So very much, we've already talked to these spirits, and they said, like, yeah, people want them. We'll give them that key to at least start that conversation as an introduction. So, I mean, as a whole, how heavy do we go with foxes in history? This is where it's like, how diabolical do we go on the darker spectrum? On the positive spectrum, they made dynasties and made emperors. They've made you rich. They're known for glamour work. They make celebrities, right? Social influence. On the negative spectrum, it gets into a moralistic context in Chinese culture, where they have destroyed dynasties. So this is the type of force we're working with here. They can create you or they can destroy you. It does not matter to them. To the point, we have histories and tomes of saying, well, this emperor, was working with foxes, and then they shapeshifted into a human, or the person did mediumship, and then they destroyed themselves through lots of leprosy and, torture and all these things. There's a few dynasties where they actually legitimately say that. Then they're like, oh, we talked to the foxes because we're peasants, and then they went up the ranks very rapidly. So this is where, again, they have the spectrum on both sides. Now, I know this is specific about Chinese fox magic, but in Japan and Korea, they also have borrowed from these traditions, right? So Japan has popularized this through anime, and they're all like, well, Japanese foxes do, and they're usually working with tanukis, or these raccoon dogs, and they play this polar opposite, but they're both shapeshifters, right? I do find, like, again, culturally, there's not much difference other than how you work with them. So Chinese culture, this is more hush-hush. In Japan, it's very open. In Korea, it's 50-50, right? It's funny how as you go off of the mainland, they're like, it doesn't matter. We're not affected by politics as much, right? But in China, this is more like it's the thing everyone does, but no one says, right? So that is where we look at this. So what's our time right now?
12:15.
Okay, cool. So, practically speaking, this is what foxes, again, can do. Enchantments. You want things in your life to pop up, they can make that happen, material or emotional. If you need to have more glamours about impressing people at your work, they can make people perceive you in certain ways. They're known for lust and sex. So if you're going for fertility rites, or if you just want to get laid, they're good for that too, right? The other thing that they're good at is whispering things into people's ears and thinking it's their idea, right? So influence magic, right? And that's usually where we see this connotation of that. And Buddhism, when it went to China, would later relate this to dakinis, right? Which is more of these lustful spirits of sex, right? But we have a lot more with foxes. And I know some people have said, well, they are equivalent to coyotes, right? Because China doesn't have coyotes. I would say, no, we geographically don't, but foxes are foxes. Don't confuse coyotes with foxes, please. They act very differently on things. So another thing that we'll find that they can do, they can teach you about shapeshifting and mediumship and divination, right? And in divination from Chinese culture, they'll usually relate this to water. When you're working with foxes, it's about perceiving things through fire, because that's the connection of spirit. And they are at least the young type of foxes, the life type of foxes, they'll teach you how to divine through fire. If you are working it from more of a darker end, then they're going to teach you through water, right? So this is where you see this duality between the two type of foxes, I guess you would say. And they're pretty good at herb work, actually. I would say like they're really good at herb work. You wouldn't think that, but they are. I mean, things that you natively would not think that would be good combinations. I mean, we formalize this through traditional Chinese medicine, but they have told me things I just like, really? That's supposed to work the way it is? Come on. And then I do it. I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty good. So they know their stuff. And they can also, for Western equivalency, because they work liminally, they are good networkers and communicators. So if you need doors opened, they'll find a way. Now we get into a debatable piece within Chinese religion. I don't want to call it religion, but structures. In Daoism, it's a bureaucracy. So from a bureaucracy standard, how fast do things go? Pretty slow. We know how the government works. So there's your structure, bureaucratic side, and then you have your outside piece. This is where they stand as outsiders and say, hey, so-and-so, let's talk because someone else wants to talk to you. And it's not official channels. They'll be like, it doesn't matter. Because they supersede the structure, actually, right? So when we look at bureaucrats, celestial Daoism, and possibly Buddhism, those set structures are very ceremonial, but because these come from a more totemistic standard, they're able to rewrite the whole bureaucracy anytime they wish, which drives Taoists crazy. They're like, what? How did you get to this person? There's like, I got connections. They know somebody, and this is like it's outside of the structure. This is why it's like they're innately rebellious in some ways, right? And this is a thing that you'll find while working with them. You will grow to have more of this, not quite an anti-social structure, but you'll think for yourself independently more and more because you have to, the way they adapt. And they'll give you both sides. They'll say, like, there's a time to be in the structure and play that game. There's a time to be outside the structure. But it's time appropriate. Because the foxes will change their fur every season, right? So that's what you're seeing there, where people, I know, again, formal Taoists will be like, yeah, that's insane. Why? And this is why they have a great distaste of foxes sometimes. And they'll say, well, no, we're not going to work with them. These things are demons. They're only demons because they break your rules. That's basically what it comes down to. So, yeah. They're really good for networking and opening up those doors that you would not expect. All right. So I'm going to ask any questions before we get into ritual sphere.
One quick question. When did the fox make itself known to you in what shape? Or can you reveal that?
For that, I will say they've been with me all my life. And that said, it was more of a subconscious piece. Till Andrea trained me, then it was more conscious, and they were like, hey buddy, hey, and they made themselves really obvious to me at that point after training with Andrea and things like that, because my family worked with Andrea on things where that's how I became his formal student, right, with his choosing and my family's choice on that. So it's one of these things where like they were always in the shadows, and then they're like, you got yourself a badass teacher. Okay. Do you have some skills to show us? Like, literally, it was kind of like that. They're like, do you have the skills? And then I'm like, you mean this? They're like, okay, good. You're worth talking to. So this is where, again, these spirits don't just work with anybody, right? So that's where they literally did put me through rites. Right?
So they chose you.
They chose me.
Nice.
And this is where a lot of people is like, well, you got family lineage. Does that help? No, it's an introduction card. You have to earn the right to work with them. Some spirits you don't have to, these you do. Because if you're not worth their time, they're either going to make your life miserable or they're just going to ignore you, which one's worse, right? So that's where it came down. There's lots of times in Dread's like, dude, the foxes are bugging you. I'm like, shit. Right? Because if I don't listen, he'll listen to them and be like, hey, you got to pay attention. So,
No, it's more like, shut up. I'm not his voicemail.
again, outside. They ain't going through my channel, so they'll bug them. Or I've seen them actually influence people around me. And they'll be like, and I'll just look at that and I'll be like, why the fuck are foxes? Like, why do I keep getting foxes on my YouTube? Why is someone like wearing a fox tail? Why do I keep seeing someone wear t-shirts? And they will manipulate social situations to get your attention. Like, again, I gave that Costco analogy earlier. I wasn't paying attention to the emotional toxicity I was having. I was just burying it. And they're like, you're hurting yourself. Bleed out. That's the most, I literally felt it. It was like cardboard. It was like, there's no reason why cardboard should cut my finger whatsoever the way I grabbed it. I grabbed the handle. I literally grabbed the handle, and it was like right through the thumb. And I was like,
Surprise.
I'm like, surprise me. And it was a lot of blood. I was like, and I looked at it, I'm like, that's a fox bite. And then they're like, yeah, that's a fox bite. So wrapped it up, and it wasn't a deep incision whatsoever, actually. It was it was a minor cut. It just looked horrible. It healed probably within 3 days. Right? But the blood quantity that came about that, you wouldn't have expected it whatsoever because it was all on the floor.
It didn't look like a cut.
No, it didn't.
It's like two little marks.
Yeah.
Two little teeth marks.
Yeah. And they literally, I looked at those, then they're like, yeah, you have toxicity in your blood. We're taking it out whether you like it or not at this point. Because if we don't, it will get worse. So it's things like this where they will act independently of you just to get their point across to you, very obviously. So that's this is that's on the wild side per se. And this is why they say this is more like, again, primordial type of atavistic, totemistic animals where, again, they're not going to think like you. Sometimes they'll think like you if you can perceive it that way, but that was a bite and that's them caring. And literally, I had my partner there and she was freaking out. She's like, you're bleeding. I'm like, no, I'm not bleeding. I mean, yes, I am literally bleeding, but this is not a big deal. I felt way better afterward, actually. And like, I literally saw, I think it was like, if I actually look at it closely, I bled. And then like, we have an acupuncture practice. And then we got more clients right after that. Right? Things like that. You're like, what? How does that work? Foxes. So, all right. So I think we're hitting points where we're about half an hour in, maybe a little bit longer. So
No, you're 12:24.
cool. So, any questions? So, fun times. So, let's walk through the ritual purpose. So, in this ritual that we'll be doing, Andrea is going to be doing an evocation over me. Obviously, these are foxes that are here already. And he'll be doing essentially calling the elements, calling yin and yang, and I will be becoming a medium for the foxes. So at that point, I will be doing an invocation of the foxes to temporarily go inside my body, and I will share space with them. Andrea is evoking over me with the foxes. And then with that, essentially, you're just going to be paying attention this way. So in terms of ritual participation, while Andrea is calling the quarters and things like that, you'll just be essentially focusing on these two, right? So this is a very simple ritual. You'll be focusing here, and I'll be pulling from the statues themselves.
When he puts the mask on, he's the fox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, when he's ready, the mask is on, that means they're in his head.
Yeah.
Only part of the ritual that we have to make some decisions is if we want a fox talisman.
If you want a fox talisman, you can get the key to the fox traditions
If
there.
you want one, that's great. Just ask
Just-
after the ritual. Pick one now, and then after the ritual,
You buy it.
yeah, go to our booth and just pay for it.
Yeah.
They're only $5, so they're not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, they're only $5, and this is where we'll be doing further pieces on Fox Magic too. Like this is just a general outline of like what's the tradition, what's the correspondence is. But we'll get more into the formal workings of foxes, and this is kind of like the start key where you'll be like, "I was here," and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool, you're cool. Let's start you on that, right?" So this is going to be viewed as more, how do I describe it? They will, in the mediumship, at the point that I'm doing the invocations, if you pick a fox and they bless a fox, you essentially are nursing a fox at that point to be in your life. So it's not like these are dead things at that point. So you have to treat it like a Tamagotchi. You have to essentially pay attention to it,
Yeah.
right?
Good analogy.
But they'll choose the fox
Yes.
because these foxes are royalty, so they will choose not royalty fox. Well, they might choose royalty foxes, but
Yeah.
they'll just basically be like, "This is the right fox for you." Like,
This is the right fox for you, and come back, and then we'll teach you how to work with this fox more and more. Because these, at least from a fox standard, these are high court foxes. These are kind of like, and Andrea, when he's doing the ritual, he'll be calling the court of foxes to kind of witness. Because again, it's kind of one of these things where it is a blessing to anyone just even being present. Like if people are online, you'll see the energy shifts, but it's gonna be through in person. And that's the way they want to be working with it from what I've heard. So,
yeah, if you're online and you want a fox, just message us.
yeah, message us, DM us, and then we'll go from there. So,
All right, pick one out.
pick one out.
Whoever wants to pick one out, go ahead. So a little caveat, like for Queen City Curio, we have sort of a philosophy. It's going to be a real ritual.
It's gonna be a real.
I'm going to summon these things as hard as I can.
Yeah.
If people need aftercare, we will do that.
We will do that.
But I don't believe in half-assing spirits. I believe it's insulting to them.
Yes.
So I will do the best I can.
I will do the best I can, and we'll see how things roll, because they're always going to be fun with the foxes and invocation.
All right. So everyone who had a fox, put the fox down on the altar for like
Okay.
near the foxes.
Near the foxes,
And remember which one is yours.
Your fox is, because we ain't gonna know.
So just remember where your foxes are. You got the mask. So
Yep.
do you need anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. They got to wait until I actually do the invocation, bro.
Yeah, I know. They're like, oh, bam, in his head down. Like,
Nope,
stop it, you two.
They do that.
They do that, but
They
no,
do
they
that.
got to
I
wait.
know. They have to wait.
All right. I'll take everyone through a fast meditation too. Is everyone ready or
Yes.
everyone good? Okay. So just put your feet on the ground. Hopefully everyone online can hear us too. Like
Yep.
we do something called lower Dantian meditation, which we're going to do just the center. And that's 4 finger widths below your belly button. And you can kind of touch it, and then you can kind of feel and just kind of let your consciousness drift inward towards your spine, and you'll notice this special spot. It just feels different. It's different for each person. You might feel more connected, energized. You might feel centered. Let me know when you get there. And just hold on to that. That'll keep you centered. And kind of that connects you to your whole body and connects to your whole energy system. That's there. So for most of the ritual, you don't have to do much. I'm going to try to prevent the foxes from getting up. Because it's mediumship, so they might get up and I'm be like, no, right?
Sit on your fluffy butt.
Right, stay. But fortunately, like in this kind of thing, this table is pretty good for him not getting up.
Yes. Especially since I got this here underneath.
He might say something. They're foxes. They might say something inappropriate. I apologize in advance. I don't know that's going to happen.
We'll see.
He's a pretty good medium, so I'll just warn you if they say something fox-like. So what I'm going to do in this, while you're all concentrating on your Dantian, is I'm going to walk around once to sort of create the yin and yang. And then I'm going to come back over here, and on the table, I'm going to call the 5 elements out to start the generation cycle of the universe. They're not quite the same elements in the east as they are in the west. They're so more like movements of the universe, not so much like states of the universe. So I'm going to call the 5 movements out. And then after that, which will purify him, then I'll call the benevolent names of all the foxes. They have a specific phrase they like. I laugh about it. It's over the top phrase.
It is totally over the top.
When you hear it, you'll be like,
Did he go
only
there?
a fox would totally, of influence magic, would totally want something like this as the phrase they have. So I'll leave that one alone, but because it's funny.
Oh, it was hilarious.
And then you should be able to feel them. He might be acting weird, or he might put the mask on, at which point he's the fox. Or both of them.
Or both of them. We'll see. They might dance.
And then afterwards, you can't really banish foxes per se.
You could try. That's what Daosit and Buddhists do, and it does not turn out well for them.
Doesn't end well.
But what we'll do is we'll go back to going to our lower dantian and kind of just focusing the energy on our center and kind of letting everything fade. And I will come over here and touch him on the shoulder so he knows, which is sort of like me force grounding everything out of him.
Yep.
And then when he's ready, he'll take the mask off and then basically thank everything. And then probably your 3 things will have something in it. I'm absolutely sure it will. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
All right, everyone ready? So at this time we call the glorious light of Yang. The impulse of creation creates its opposite, that of Yin, the impulse of darkness and the movement of darkness. Together, I walk the first impulse of creation of Yin and Yang. Of light and dark, of heat and cold, of fire and water, spiraling together and constantly with each other. From wood and growth, I call the motion of the growth and life itself to grow and surround Zach, that he may be purified in the growth of life itself. The branches of wood surrounding and encompassing him. From wood generates the beauty of fire, which is the energy of will and life force and direction, that he may be surrounded by will and the spark of spirit itself. Fire generates earth, may be surrounded by the majestic mountains and the earth under his feet, which provides ample nourishment for the wood to grow. May the earth give way to metal, the force of death and cutting, that his intellect may slice through and discern garbage, and that we may know the truth in any situation. And may metal generate water in the darkness and the primordial nothing that generates wood. Thus, the universe generates. Thus, the universe around him is created. Thus, the foxes sit at the center of the universe. Oh, great, radiant nine tails of the silver sun, glorious celestials, foxes of the imperial court, come and descend into the table here. Descend with your fox brethren around us. Descend and come right here, ye who creates empires and creates merchants from nothing. Descend here, oh great, radiant nine tails of the silver sun. You, the most imperial foxes, you, the nine-tailed foxes of the emperor himself, descend now. Let that come now and come into Zach as he is willing. Descend into Zach with your glorious shining beauty, that everyone might see, that all your fox brethren might surround us and witness. Oh, glorious nine-tailed. Oh, glorious nine tails of the silver sun. Would you be willing to put some fox pups for these fine people who want an introduction from some of your brethren, your manly brethren, all around us? Oh, glorious nine tails. Both of you, thank you so much for bringing one of your pups down and one of your brethren down. Oh, great nine tails. We appreciate what you're doing here today.
From both courts.
Okay, very good.
Eastern sun rising. This book of you. With the fire in your eyes.
Oh, glorious nine tails. Thank you for bringing a second brethren. Oh, greatest nine tails of the silver sun. Thank you for bringing a third brethren down to us today, that we may all find routes around the blocks in the system and get our desires and needs met.
Who has a health problem?
Who doesn't have a health problem? Probably me, probably Jeffrey, probably Zach. Who do you want to help? So there's Jeffrey, right? What's your name? What was that? Megan. All right. If you want to, probably up to here.
And do you want to get rid of your pain? You know who you're talking to, right? Do you mean it?
As long as it doesn't cause more issues for me.
We can do that.
I'll be good to her. 9-tail. Remember all those things you want from me and Zach. So be good to her.
Who's not present?
What was that?
Yours. Who's not
You know, I'm not the ones that. No, that's okay. You know what they're like. Stay like. They don't come out in day.
They did.
Now that we're listening, they don't come out in day. They don't like it.
For you who have pups, remember to feed them and pay them attention through fire.
That's a little tea light or something.
If you don't take care of them, we'll know. And that's a squandered blessing. And they'll come back.
So they need tea lights. Or other candles. You have anything else to say?
What do you want?
We can talk later. I know you're. If you need to let him go because he can't handle it, that's okay. I got him.
We'll talk soon.
Okay. I got him if you need to let him go. Okay.
Both of them are here too. Queen Mother and King Father.
I know. Let's hope if we take the mask off first.
All right.
Who are you?
Zach,
Okay, how are you doing?
somewhere,
Where are you at?
a park.
Where?
Starts with a D.
Good enough.
Good enough.
You at least know it starts with a D.
Do I have legs?
What?
Feels like I don't have legs right now.
You don't have what?
Feels like I don't have legs right now. Like,
You do. No, you're good.
okay.
Just put them straight on the ground.
And that's what happens with mediumship. All right. So for those who saw a live video, that's what you missed today for not showing up.
I'm just gonna sit next to you just to make sure you're okay.
Yes.
Hope you don't mind everyone online.
You got a great show coming on.
First, if it was too much, which didn't seem to bother most of you,
Yeah.
but focus on your lower and Dantian. Just make sure you're centered. Like I said, foxes, if you just banish them, they're just gonna go around your banishing. So,
As you saw.
but if you're centered, that's good. Okay. He wanted me to call it my fox. They wanted me to call it my foxes. I'm like, no. No.
No.
Not letting them go, huh? You're gonna hold on them in your head, huh? I see how it is with you, Zach. More present now.
Yes.
You probably had too much fox energy on me still. Okay. Yeah, the problem was me. First problem was you, and the second problem was me. All right, now we're good.
How's it get around, right?
Sharing the wealth, huh?
Well, it was sort of forceful. I was holding them while they're here, so. All right, so there you go. Questions now.
Questions now. I don't know what the hell happened, so.
Well, they came in. They said hi. They gave a blessing for a health blessing. They asked her if she was sure, and I told them to be nice, and then they agreed to be nice because I said they wanted a whole bunch of things from you and me. So I said, well, at that
Bribery.
point, yeah. You see how the foxes are. You could bribe them
You can
actually
bribe
in
them.
practice.
In practice.
Foxes like sweets too.
And they like shiny things. Not
And they like
magpie
shiny.
shiny, but shiny.
Do you give them any kind of special drink like a sake, or do they have beer? What do they like to drink?
They'll take anything, really, I find. I mean, it's one of these things like I have good with water, I'm good with milk. They'll take what you got. This is the thing, like, they don't really, like, again, as these types of spirits work, they'll work with what you have. It's the sincerity piece.
Right.
If you're like, well, I got the money, fuck it, here's all this, they're going to be like, screw you. You don't need any of this, right? Like, even if you give them a bowl of rice and that's all you can afford, they'll accept it. But it has to come from, like, actually, like, as an offer.
Okay.
Right? And that's really the key piece I find with them. They don't care what you give them. You can give them, like, anything. I mean, even, like, the blood piece. It's not like, okay, that was an offering to them. They were helping me on that one. But in many ways, that was, they're like, okay, yeah, this is negative and this is bad for you, but it still works for us because we see you progressing. So that was the exchange there. Right? So that's really where, if you're sincere, they'll take anything you can give. And if you can't, you just have to talk to them and be like, hey, like, you know, roof over my head's a little tough right now. Bring some more money in, then I can upgrade you.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons get somebody and convince somebody that you're a right partner is influence.
Right.
It's
And remember, sex in Chinese culture, this is like, you know, you'll see there's liturgy that says like, oh, these are yin forces. They're not. They're on both spectrums, from my experience. That said, with the influence in sex, remember that was marriages historically. And if you could marry up, that's when the influence actually meant something, right? So it's like, that's a fast way to do a social transition, right? And that's why they're so associated with it. But if you're even doing a merchant, like, again, they're very good with that merchant side. It's like you still have to talk and convince people. So this is where, again, they go on both sides. And it really is like, how do you need the money? We don't care how you get the money if that's your goal. Right? You have to be morally comfortable, though. And this is where they're saying, well, the world's not black and white. It's gray. And what grays you can accept, well, that is partially you, that's partially your context, socially, that's partially everything, but you have to evaluate that. So any other questions?
Is there a special direction that you should set your shrine up for?
So, from a feng shui perspective, they would say generally set itself, but listen to, like, for people that practiced, like the pups that purchased them today, listen to your intuition on this. Again, the rules do not matter to them, because I know even thinking about partially right now, it's like some of these foxes, they found very different routes for different people, whichever one goes to which. Some were really obvious, some were very more like underground type of thinking. So again, they all have different correlations. So think of this like, again, I don't want to say Tamagotchis, but you have to actually listen to what they're saying to you, and they'll give you ideas, because you know what one fox is going to say, it's not going to be the same as another fox. They are independent spirits. So to put them in a formalized structure, they're going to be like, sure, we'll take a structure, but that's for you, not us. So
One of the things that the foxes sort of is an introduction to is they are for Westerners. Simply, they can break all the rules of the Taoist system.
yes,
They are an introduction to the original Taoist system. They are part of the original Taoist
the more
folk shamanic tradition, and they are, which is a little weird for China and Japan and Korea. They are literally willing to work with outsiders and make the introductions or initiations happen because they are not running in the bureaucracy.
They're not running the bureaucracy, and this is why, again, they are working with outsiders. And I know people are like, well, lineages, but it's more like, did you earn the right to, like, did you actually have the sincerity? Do you actually have gone through the spiritual practices to work with us? If you did, we don't care where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Now, other spirits might be like, go snuff their nose at you, where they want proper channels, but they don't.
But some of the spirits that introduce you might be willing to bend the rules. Essentially, like, and they, like, if you're interested in Taoist magic, having a fox pup or a fox spirit is one of the best ways to get around if you're not part of the culture. It's like one of the first steps that somebody who's not Chinese probably has to take for
our is more of a celestial bureaucracy. At that point, it's like, put your paperwork in, maybe someone tattletales on you, and then maybe you move on. Again, it's very similar to how we would approach, like, government. You got to put the petition in. Maybe by the grace, they give you some benefits. Foxes would be like, come on, don't be a jerk to the spirit. They've worked for this. They've earned this ranking. This is where they're at. And we like to see them progress. They actually, as much as we say they're neutral, they actually want to see positive changes for people. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's positive changes for society, right? This is where you get this mischievous aspects of them, where they're like, yeah, no, we're for that underfox. We're for the underdog. It's like, you got to get things working. We'll get things working for you. And it's not going to be, it might be through proper channels. It might not be through proper channels, but we're looking out for you, right? And that's one of the significant pieces I find, at least working on a fox tradition, that they're going to really say, like, yeah, you wanted this. Why aren't you on this? Right? So with the pups that people have and with the blessings, it's like I got like some things where it's like, all right, like I already can see where some of those journeys are going to take you. But when I was like, now that I'm recalling it, it's coming like a flashback. So it's like, all right, like, yeah, everyone's got a very different journey on things. And those foxes will weave you through like a guide. Right? So in closing, I mean, is there any more questions or we'll wrap up? Do you have any final words, sir?
Just take your fox and go pay for it.
Go take
We're right across the way. I don't know whose fox is whose.
I don't know whose fox is.
The flyers were part of the ritual, so take one of the flyers too. Like, that's our store in East Chinatown.
This is my little guy.
Yeah.
Take one of these, and we'll go pay for it.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Finally got flyers.
That was lovely. Thank you very much.
In Girard and
Broadview
in East Chinatown.
So it's just a crossover street there. We're upstairs on the 4th floor. And then again, from a store standard, we so you have everything you can think of. So if we don't have it, we'll order it in within a few weeks
Or make it.
or make it custom.
Well,
It's
it's
running
live.
live right now.
So it'll be in our channel for that's linked in the store. Well, everyone in internet land, if you want some foxes,
You can ask.
it's not going to be the cheap price they got here today because we're going to do another ceremony to
Yes.
bless it. But if you come in person to Toronto Pagan Pride, you get the actual cost. Otherwise, we'll have blessed foxes
Well,
if people
plus
want
lots
them,
of people want them.
and we'll do the ritual with you again. But you got to reach out to us and ask, and then we'll do it.
Yeah, DM us, send us an email at queenccurio@gmail.com, or just DM us on Zachary Louie or Andre Vitamus, and we'll get to you.
We'll see you next time
See you next time.
in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.